is this world created through cause and effect? So this is such a good topic. So the way that humans see the world is they believe they arrive from the last moment and that there's somebody that's sitting here that came from the past and is moving to the future. So that's always the perspective of the human, that you've come from the past, that you came from somewhere and that you're going to the future. So you have an imagination of your day. So my day was that I went and had my hair done. I did some writing on my book on the phone, like that and like that. I walked the dogs in the woods. What else did I do? So I can go into memory and I can create this past, and then most people identify with that memory, that person, and then they think that's who they are. That who they are is this person that did all those things and now is sitting here and then will get up and finally move into the future. So this person is always a time-bound entity. So it's always living in time. It's always either living in past or future, and it's somewhere you've come from and somewhere you're going to. So, so for an animal, so say Khaleesi, who's just sitting down there. Say hello, Khaleesi. Khaleesi. Hello, Khaleesi. Hello. Oogie, 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 oogie. Oogie, 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 oogie. So, ook. Hello. Oh, hey. You're so sweet. So for Khaleesi, she's totally not interested in anything got to say. It's not quite dinner time yet. Give it another 15 minutes and then she'll leave me. Or 1 hour. She'll be ready for her dinner. And she'll be more interested in me. So if we go for Khaleesi, so Khaleesi hasn't really got a very strong memory. She has some form of memory, like she can remember sort of when it's food time every day. And she can have some form of memory of where she's hidden bones, but it doesn't function like ours. And why am I so convinced about that? Because they don't have language. So they don't have the ability to say, hello, my name's Khaleesi. How are you today? It's nice to meet you. I've just been down the shops and bought myself some bones. And this evening I'm going out and having a bit of a bogey. Having a bit of a night out on the town with the ladies. Khaleesi doesn't have that language. We like to project onto our animals that they can think, but how can they think if they don't have language? So they have some form of imagery that's going on. Maybe, we're not sure about that. You've got to remember their brain is like a walnut, the size of a walnut. It's a very small brain, but they certainly don't have language. So Khaleesi doesn't even recognize herself in the mirror. So when I put a mirror to her, she doesn't even think, oh, that's me. She's just absolutely uninterested, as if it's like nothing. So even if she did have thinking, or more complicated thinking than I'm implying, who would she be in her imaginations? Because she doesn't even recognize her body. So who would she imagine herself to be? Whereas when you're imagining yourself as a body that's moving through time. Even though it's not that clear, or it's a bit blurry, you're imagining your form moving through time. Whereas Khaleesi has no idea that she's a black dog from Thailand, and a black and beige dog from Thailand, and that she's of medium height, of good proportion. She's not too slim, not too fat. She has a curly tail and pointy ears. She has no sense of that. So who is she? Like, who does she imagine herself to be? Like, in order for us to imagine ourselves to be something, we have to be something. So you could say, oh, she imagines herself as some form of essence inside the body, like she's a soul or something. But what would that look like, this essence? Because if you imagine your soul, you imagine your body with it. Like this ethereal essence that's in there, like, doesn't look like anything, isn't identified with a thing. So to Khaleesi, she's just here, she's present. And she's not having this intense memory about the past or future. And she certainly doesn't think that she is something that's come from the past arrived in the present and will soon descend into the future like a rocket. She just is right here, right now, as she is. That's so hard for us to imagine because we're always imagining that this world has something to do with me, 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 me. But we as humans are convinced that that's who we are. Whereas actually who we are is something that's right here. So if you've ever noticed, you've always been here. There's always been this moment. You've never actually managed to obtain the past or hold on to the past or get to the future. You've always been right here, right now, this alive presence that's looking at itself, that knows itself. And in that, images have appeared of your past and of your future, giving the appearance that you're coming from the past and going to the future. But actually, the past and the future are like two black holes that you don't know, that are an absolute mystery. You're always on the verge of the precipice. You're never actually like descending into anything. You're always in mystery. You don't know what's coming. It's just our mind plays tricks on us. So, like, let's look at the way our mind works. So let's look at the way that we know movement. So the movement of my arm, for example. So what's happening in that movement is there's lots of images appearing that's giving us movement. So we know that it's up here because we remember that it was down here. So we remember it's there, we remember it's there, we remember it's there. So remember its previous position. But that memory is happening so quickly that's piecing together all of this. Like our memory. If you had no memory, if you were like a fish that forgets every 6 seconds, it's like it's got to there, it's forgotten it. Maybe there's an animal that forgets even quicker, so then it's like the past has disappeared even quicker. So our memory is filling in the gaps. So we know that movement by the memory of the position here, 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 here. So you could say that our memory is happening and piecing everything together really quickly, like our brain is giving the appearance of all this movement. Like to another animal that has different senses or different experiences, I'm sure this world is completely different. Completely different. Like to a snake, this world is something else. To a dog, this world is very different. So what's the point of knowing that? The point of knowing that is remembering who you are beyond this story of who you are. So it's remembering who you are beyond this image and idea of you that you're always retelling yourself, always identifying with. So what's here beyond all of that? So you're identifying with this, like, so say this is the human life, you're identifying with something that's not here. Like you remember that your life down here, and then your life comes up to here and you remember it and you're holding it in your imagination together as if that's you looking out of your eyes now. That person that came from the past is looking out of my eyes. But that's not who's looking out of your eyes. There's an innocence here that is not a thing and everything. It's not anything. It's not thought. It's not image. It's not experience. It's not memory. It's not anything. But yeah, it is everything. It knows everything. So it is everything that's appearing. So it's nothing and everything. So, and your essence is conscious of itself. It knows this is happening. And even though my words are disappearing and your mind is making sense of it, there's something else happening here, which is really quite magical and mysterious and wonderful. It's not something you can grab onto. Your mind is like, oh, where is this? Where is this no place that's every place? Where is this consciousness or aliveness or energy, whatever the teacher expresses it to be? But there's no place to hold on to. You can't grab hold of it. It doesn't have a solid form. It is nothing appearing as everything. So you can't understand it. The mind understands matter, understands things, understands comparison. But this has got no comparison. This has got no opposites. This has got no things. It is no thing, which is everything. The mind's like, it looks desperately for something. So actually in this moment, who am I speaking to? So the mind, the intellect thinks that I'm speaking to you, or the identity thinks that I'm speaking to you, and you're someone sat there in relationship to me. But in this moment, in this instant, who am I actually speaking to right now? So identification creates suffering. So this identification with the person, the identification with cause and effect, creates suffering. It sucks you in, it makes you feel like you are something solid, that it's inside this body, that you are a separate person looking out of the world. But actually there is nobody looking out of the world, there is nothing looking out of the world, there is simply everything. There isn't something here looking out at the world. Pardon me. And the relevance of this is that when you identify with that person, it creates this suffering. It creates this intensity, because as soon as you identify, you feel like you lose home. You feel like you've lost something, because your nature, your essence is expansive, is undefined, is no thing appearing as everything, which is huge, which is everything. And then when you identify, you become limited, and that always feels like you've got a stone in your shoe. It always feels like there's something not quite right. So then what the mind does is it begins to obsess and think about what it can do to get home, to get to that freedom that it kind of remembers from childhood. Like, what can I do to get there? What can I be? So then it begins to get into this hamster's ball of trying to find this in time. So it's trying to find it in something that does not exist, in imagination, in a future event, in something that's never here. You never get to the future. You never really achieve anything. It's all stories that you're telling yourself. And you're trying to get to a story of arrival. So even like buying a house is only a story now, actually. You never actually own a house. It's just contracts and ideas that you have that you own a house, and collective reality that society has. But actually you never own a house. Like anybody that has a house now, that owns a house, it doesn't actually feel like your house. It's like you have that feeling like somebody, like it's not your house, because it isn't your house. That's a story that you're retelling yourself, just like if you're telling yourself I'm rich or I'm successful. It's a story that you're telling yourself. Right here, right now, you're not anything. You're just being, you just are. These stories are relevant to function in society, so I denigrate that to character. So these stories, like the ability to be able to communicate that you have a house, or that you have a computer, or that you've got a dog, or you have kids, or you've got to go shopping this evening, those all belong to this character, which you need to have a character in order to function in this society. Like if you didn't have a character, like somebody says, so where are you going tonight? Where do you live? So there needs to be this character that comes in and out and has the ability to communicate stories, and the ability to navigate this human society, which is all based on stories. Like our finance is a story. Like we made up how we do finance. Numbers is a story. Science is a story. Everything is stories. And that storytelling is an amazing way of being able to communicate things and being able to evolve, but they're not fact. We believe that our world is real. We believe that our stories are real. We believe that our society is real. We believe that that person is a good person, that person is a bad person, I'm this type of person, that person is rich, that person is this. Whereas actually we've just given things stories in order to navigate our environment. It doesn't mean they're true, but we need this character in order to contain these stories, and in order to be able to navigate its way around other instruments and this world. But in this moment, that's not who you are, and that's what's been forgotten. And this moment is all you ever have. So you could say that in every moment, who you truly are is nobody appearing as everything, nothing appearing as everything, nobody, which if you're not anything, if you're not a body, then by default that means that you're everything. And this is the part that's forgotten, and it's the part that most humans want to forget in a way, because the functioning of the human and of the mind is to always want to be something. Like it's scared, it's terrified of not being something. Like when I say that to you on the human level, the body is terrified, like I have to be something, I have to be special, I have to be grand. So the identity like always wants to generate itself and always wants to be something. So when the identity hears this story, which it is as well, or hears these concepts, it's also terrified. So this world works in apparent cause and effect. That's the way we tell our stories. Like we tell our stories in apparent cause and effect. So I drink water and then the body pees out the water. Like I hit my head, a lump grows. I plant a seed and water it, and then a seed grows up. Life form grows. So it appears in cause and effect, but it's not truth. And that's our difficulty. As humans, we're always looking for things to be true and real and the way things are, whereas actually what we're doing is we're creating a world through stories. We're creating a society through stories. We're creating rules through stories. We're creating science through stories, and we think that's reality. So what's beyond reality when we stop focusing on what we're thinking, on what we're telling ourselves? And what's beyond reality is this alive presence, this beingness that knows itself right here, that's free. Right now. Okay, we go to questions now.